Okay, the acid has taken all the sponge off of this, and it's starting to look like an actual piece now. And the acid didn't get one little part back in there, but we can get that later. Okay, and then there's the little flower that goes on top, and that's gonna pretty much do what we need to do. Now what we want to do next is come in here and just polish up these two top edges right here so that the flower can go in and just get a polish right on those two edges there, so the flower can go in there without and then we'll be able to kind of pre-polish, you might say. So I'm going to take it over to the polisher, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So now we've got that in place. I mean, not in place, but this inner part polished. We can go ahead and drop the flower in there. But probably at this point, now that I think of it, I'm going to want to polish the back side of the flower because it's going to be in there too, and it's going to cause a problem. So let me go back in and polish the back side of the flower, and I'll be back in a minute, and then we'll go over to the welder and weld the flower on there and get that all set up. And then what would come next would be the bale. Okay. All right, we got a daub of solder there already, and if you look closely, you'll see kind of a little gunge area right there. Well, turns out that's a daub of solder, so we don't need to put any in there. All we need is a little bit of flux, and place the flower where we want it. I would say something like about right there. Turn on the torch, and boric acid and alcohol combined make an interesting concoction that you can put, basically just put the piece in there and get some boric acid on it. What it does is it protects the metal that has been polished, and it keeps it from getting fire scale on it. So the metal becomes, what happens is the boric, as the piece comes to temperature, the boric acid acts as a protectant, and you can kind of see it burning off here. That's the alcohol burning off. It adds as a protectant, and doesn't allow the oxygen to get to the piece while it's coming up to temperature, which gives it this nice, all of the parts that are polished stay polished. And so for that inside piece part, that's an important piece. Okay, almost there. Come on. Sometimes you can't tell if it took or not. Let's bring it up in the air to come in from up underneath. Usually it relaxes a little bit when it gets ready to take, but not always. It looks like everything is there and up to temp. Come on. What I'm trying to do now is just get it to drop down just a little bit. I think that's probably going to be the trick right there. Still doesn't look like it took, but We'll know in a second. Yep, good and strong. It ain't going nowhere. Okay, here it is. Now all we have to do is just take off these little bits right on the outside, and I think it's best that we just take that off with a saw. So let's go ahead and take it over to the sawing platform, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so this is a pretty easy part. Just coming in. Oh, let me get my glasses on here so I can actually see. The only hard part here is making sure that the saw blade goes in the right direction. Just cut off this corner here. And two. So we got two pieces cut off of there. You can kind of see the back. There's still a lot of scrappy stuff in the back here. Let's bring it in a little closer. A lot of scrappy stuff in the back here, but you know, with a little bit of grinding or file work, we can round that off and make it look real nice. All right, let's get back to doing some file work. So we take the, and I love using the Barrett files because they're so versatile. Just come in. And just start working that edge. And see how there's a little line right there on the edge? Well, that's where the solder didn't quite take. So hopefully we can kind of work that line out. Yes, see, it's almost gone. And I like those lines to be gone. Some jewelers don't, but I do. It just makes for a finished piece. Okay, let's move this camera over a little bit so we can be more comfortable. There we go. So now we've got a nice clean line all the way across. Same there. And actually I'm working with a coarse file, so let me get a finer one here. We can almost get in and do the whole piece. Just kind of get rid of all of the gunge and all of the little imperfections and just doing flat file. And again, some jewelers will go in at this point and use a power buffer or something like that and just kind of buff away all the lines. But what happens is the flatness never quite comes back, and you lose a certain, or I feel like I lose a certain amount of smoothness that I like in my work. And so most of the things I do, I'll flat file first. You can see right here, see there's a little dimple in the design. And we just come in with a couple of more strokes and that dimple disappears and you get this nice finished look. And notice that dimple is still there. So we'll come back to that after a few minutes. Right now we'll just keep doing the border. I mean, not the border, but the design. And come back around here. And I'm doing this and trying not to hit the top of that bezel, which sometimes is a little difficult, because the top of that bezel is what's actually going to be seen when the stone is set and everything's all said and done. So kind of come in here and follow the line of the leaf pattern and see if we can get that dimple out. There it goes. Almost out. Yeah. The knees are already pre-polished, so we don't have to worry about that. Clean up the edge. You know, the flat file just takes a little bit more effort, but for me, the effort is well worth it. Come in here and clean up all the edges around the flower and make those more uniform. Well, more uniform. They're far from uniform, but you know, that's how flowers are. They're not always exactly perfect. There we go. Looks pretty good. Everybody looks happy. Now notice this line in here, it's kind of gunged out. We'll come in and clean that up a little bit. And again, it doesn't take that much, just a little bit of extra effort, and it comes out so much better in the end. Okay, I think we're almost there, at least with the perimeter. Oh yeah, we got to do this back thing. So that's not too bad, and once again, flat file with the barrette file, because the barrette file doesn't leave any or very little marks. You can pretty much just kind of come in and kiss it. Get it to round off a little bit. And then I come in behind it and just clean it up just a tad. And there we go. And that looks pretty good. Come in and go ahead and do a little bit of filing on the back side of this. Now the back side, you know, it always tends to warp a little bit when you heat it up, pretty much with it, all metal. Notice how it's, you know, really shiny around the edges, but right in that center it's a little bit dipped in. If it's really bad, you can come back in and bang it out a little bit and then file it down, but in this case, it's probably good enough to go ahead and I'll just do a little bit more filing, see if we can get it down a little bit. And then just go ahead and come in and buff it. But we are going to do all of that a little bit later. Right now, we got to decide what to do with the bale. And so an important piece with that is kind of putting the stone in there so that you got the weight, because the stone will throw the thing off. And I use a little pair of tweezers. Let's see if I can find those tweezers. I know they're here somewhere. There they are. I use a little pair of tweezers that grip like that. And so then I can come in, I can grab this thing wherever I want and let it rock and let it give it a little swing there. Oops. Give it a little swing there and it'll settle where the weight is. And that looks pretty good, actually. I don't mind it being off center like that, but let's try it right at the flower and see how it hangs. That's not bad. Oops. And I always like to give it a try in 3 or 4 places, because it just might turn out that one place is better than another, and if I don't try a number of places, I'm never going to know that. and then I'll get to the end and go, oh geez, it would have worked a lot better that other way. So let's try this totally upside down. And that isn't bad either. But, you know, I'm kind of not sure. I still think that first one was, where was that? Right about there, I believe. Yeah, that looks pretty good right there. There's a balance to it there. So then what I do is I just kind of come in behind it. I grab it like this, and then I come in behind and I let go of the front and I just do a scratch mark on the back. And there you can see the scratch mark right there. Let's come in a little closer, yeah. And then if you can't see the scratch mark, and it's true, it's very vague, we'll put a little ink mark right there. And we know that's where the bail's going to go. So now all we have to do is build the bail, right? That shouldn't be a problem. So let's look for some bail material. And that's going to be here somewhere. Here's some. Oh, that's good. All right, here's some bail material, but it's a bit heavy. Notice, it's pretty thick material. So I think what I'm going to do is cut a little piece off and run it through the rolling mill and thin it out a little bit so that it doesn't use quite as much metal. Let's go over to the shear. Let's see if we can set this up at the shear. So basically come in, and this is a great old shear. I bought it, probably 20 years ago. It's built to cut 1/4 inch steel. So a little piece of 16th inch silver is nothing for this thing. So we'll take this and we'll move over to the rolling mill and see what we can do there. The piece can go in there. We have to get the mill opened up enough to accept the piece. Oops, wrong way. Let's see if it'll do that. There we go. And that's stretched out by about 1/4 inch. We'll close it up a little bit more. Oops, I opened it. And we're going to probably stretch it out another 1/4 at this point. Yep, we got another 1/4 inch out of that, and I still think we can go a lot more. Yep, and there's not quite 1/4. And then run it through again. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. We could still go a little bit further. I mean, it isn't like this is a big old heavy piece. See, it's much thinner, much longer. And let's take it one more time. And that one hardly did anything. So we're going to run it through again. There we go. Now we've got something. Okay, we've added about 3/4 of an inch to that piece and thinned it down by, well, let's look at the other piece here. Compare I'd say we thinned it down by half. So we've gone from probably 10 gauge to 20 gauge material. So at this point we have to take it over and anneal the metal, otherwise it's just impossible to work with. It gets really hard and strong. So I'm going to go over to the welding bench. All right, easy. it's going to be a piece of cake. So we come in and we just start heating this thing up, and I'm going to turn the light out so that we can see it heat up. And we'll just bring it up to about a cherry red, which is, or a dull red, which is, I don't know, probably about 1,000 degrees or so. And just let it cool. And what happens is the molecules of the metal relax. And the piece of metal just kind of becomes soft again.